up, YouTube? I am your host, Mediocre Tutorials and Reviews, back in here with yet one more video. Guys, have a Patreon suggested video today. Shout out to you, Mr. Michael Bennett. All right, Alexander Grace. Why do women constantly belittle men? For folks that do not know this content creator, I actually reacted to a video of his, I want to say it was about 6 or so months ago. Now, he's a red pill content creator that takes it from the perspective of, from an evolutionary lens. I think that that's important to keep in mind. I have not seen this video, but I know what type of content creator he is, and it's valuable for us to get into it. So without further ado.
The women's brains are wired differently, and I think the way women structure their thoughts, their actions, and even their emotions, they're all different to the way a man is wired. So I think it's difficult for both genders to associate, to try and understand, really understand what the other gender is feeling.
Do you want to know why women so often put men down? Why they tease them, why they belittle them and insult them? Are you curious to know what the source of all of this female cruelty is? It's because women are dependent upon men. That dependency breeds resentment. And this is something that it's very difficult for men to understand. The reason is because as a gender, men are very self-sufficient. We're very independent. If we see a problem, we just get on with it. We go and fix that problem. Men are very proactive. We create our own lives. We actively satisfy our own desires. Before you begin taking too much credit for it, understand that that's not really up to you. This is just how evolution has created men to be confident, independent, masculine, self-sufficient. So because men are so independent when it comes to meeting their own survival needs, when it comes to romantic relationships, we don't seek out women primarily for physical means, more for matters of the soul. We want women for companionship, for love, for pleasure and enjoyment. Now, most of us grew up with this cultural myth that when it comes to love and relationships, women are these hopeless romantics. It's nonsense. Men are the romantics.
Hold on real quick. Let's pause for a second. So the title of the video is Why Do Women Constantly Belittle Men? And we started off with a clip with a young lady who was just talking about how men and women think differently. Okay. So then he started to get into that men are independent and confident, and because that is true, women depend on men, and because there is a dependence, it then breeds a resentment. And initially my gears started turning when I just literally heard it, and I was trying to think of additional relationships where something is dependent on another thing, and because it is dependent, it begins to resent, or it breeds resentment. Leave a comment in the comment section down below if you can think of one. You know, as I think about this a little bit more, I wonder if it's, you know, could we see resentment on both sides of the coin, right? We see resentment from women, we see resentment from men. I understand what he's saying as to say that there's a degree of resentment that is created because you depend on others, right? But I feel like truly feminine women who depend on a masculine man never have a degree of resentment within that. But I do think that there is a component of that where you try to take back your independence and kind of a role in a relationship where then it can breed resentment from both sides. You know, he also said something that I thought was super interesting, and I don't think I agree with this. He said that men don't seek out women for purely physical, and instead they want things that are more matters of the soul or more romantic. And probably where he's going to go with that is he's going to say that men are more inherently romantic than women. I'm not going to argue that. I think that one is tomato. However, the idea that men do not go after women for purely physical relationships, I don't agree with that. I don't think that that is true. I think it can happen. I think I've done it in my past. I've had women do that to me, purely physical, wanted nothing else outside of the fact. Now, I will say in the majority of those relationships for time, it is not the norm. It is more so outliers, especially from a woman's perspective. But I have friends with a lot of dudes that will simply go out specifically for the intention of the physicality or the viscosity with no emotions tied to the situation at all. So I hear what you're saying, Alexander. I hear what you're saying. From my field reports and my field studies, I can see it on the other side of that not being as true as what you proclaim. But let's continue. Maybe he's going to heat it up here in a second.
Just ask yourself, how many great love songs are there by women written about men? Yeah, like there's a couple, but not many. Compare that amount with the number of fantastic love songs written by men about women. It is amazing that this cultural myth persists. Men are obviously the more romantic ones. You might say, but Alex, women are the ones who read romance novels. Isn't that proof that women are romantics? Not really, because if you actually look at the themes that are explored in those romance novels, they're not about all the things that a woman does to attain the man, all the things that she has to sacrifice for the man that she loves. Those books contain stories of women being rescued.
Facts. That's actually a good point. You know what I'm saying? If you read in those romance novels, like, you know, they're either on the side of like some strong sexual connection that appeals to the woman reader. Shout out to like 50 Shades of Grey. Or it is sort of like the woman is never sacrificing for the man. It's always the man doing this, that, and the third in order to attain the love for the woman. I absolutely see what he's talking about. He's also saying that the majority of women's songs that are about love are far undernumber the amount of male songs that talk about women and romance. I don't know. I don't have any data or statistics on that. Maybe it's something that I'll go back later and do some research on. Thinking about R&B songs right now, and you know, if you think about like, you know what I'm saying, like the early 90s to mid 90s, you know, late 80s, when R&B to me was at its peak, was at its pinnacle. I can name just as many male R&B groups as female R&B groups, but really what he's talking about is the content of the songs. But what we did see is that transition from lovey-dovey songs from a woman's perspective to kind of female licking, sticking, itching, and all of that stuff that they talk about now, which now transcends even today to the Cardi B's and the, you know, everything, the Nicki Minaj's, and then that's still prevalent and popping today. More so than what you see from a man's perspective, talking about all the things that he does and he proclamates that he does in the bedroom or such. You still see it from time to time, but I see much more of the female artists gaining popularity because of the sexual innuendos that's at the topics of a lot of these songs.
Of women being the recipients of romantic love and romantic gestures. It's the men in those books who are doing all of the heroic deeds, all of the sacrifice for the sake of the woman. And if you hear a man express his love to a woman, you'll often hear it in that sacrificial language, like, I would do anything for you. I would give up everything for you. I'd swim an ocean to get to you. I'd die for you. Whatever it is. This is the truth of gender dynamics. Men bring the romance. Women receive the romance.
I understand his points now that he's gotten into a little bit more. He's absolutely right. Yeah. The man is the hunter and the man has to push the envelope for that romance or what have you. Here's my contention. It doesn't work. There's no value in it. Generally, when I am involved in those situations, yeah, I get comments here and there, like, you know, my degree of leveraging my romantic bucket, but like, you know, which is not a lot, and that's just not how my mind thinks. I don't really like to do all of those things, you know. So they'll comment on it, but then they're still in and around me, right? So I say all that to say that, you know, I feel like because of what has been infused in men's minds and what is popping in terms of getting a woman is not actually true. They are the receiver of it. They appreciate it. They appreciate the flowers and the dinners with the expensive this and that. They appreciate those things. But when it comes into the psyche of what are the things that you have to do in order to keep them, I've never seen any of that stuff work. So my thing is as long as I've been talking about this on the channel, is like, if you have the data to show that it is not beneficial, then why are you leveraging that bag? It's okay to toss a romantic bone from time to time, but trust me, it doesn't capture any more of them the more that you lay into that part of your game, from my field studies.
Being so vulnerable and having instincts that are so finely attuned to survival, love and relationships have to, at least on some level, be a matter of practicality for women. If a woman's husband dies, of course she's going to feel sad, of course she's going to grieve, but she also has to consider the practicalities of the situation. She has to think about her children. Now that the husband is no longer around to provide, what is to become of them? While the idea of a wailing widow, a woman who just spends the rest of her life mourning her dead husband, sounds terribly romantic, evolution is not interested in romanticisms. Evolution is interested in survival and practical matters. This is why evolution gave women the instincts to be able to move past their grief and secure a new partner.
Isn't that humans? Isn't that humans? Men don't suffer the death or loss of a woman throughout the rest of the entirety of their life either. They don't do that either. They move on. Eventually, hopefully, they move on and can procreate after that. So it feels like, to me, it goes on both sides of the coin. Evolution wants to continue. We all have genes in us that wants to continue the human species through evolution. And on both sides of the coin, we don't wallow throughout the remainder of our life if we are of breeding age with the loss that we just incurred.
When things are going well in a tribe and all of the men and women are partnered up and happy, things work really well like this. It's very, very efficient because each gender plays to their strength and they cooperate to make sure that everybody's needs are met. So while men and women are working together, things are going fine for the tribe, but there is a hidden cost to all of this efficiency, and that's that women feel vulnerable and they feel dependent upon the men. If you take a man and you strand him on an island and he has to hunt his own food and build his own shelter and all of that stuff, he'll probably be okay.
You know, he's making actually fantastic points, again, from an evolutionary perspective. Essentially what he's saying is that men can be men solely and alone and independent throughout the entirety of their lives, right? And really only when a man wants a family, he can turn on certain components of his personality in order to make him seem more viable and more attractive. Now, on the flip side, now what he's saying is that women are generally more nurturers, more caretakers, and because maybe their physical size is not as big, and because you require a man from a certain age for child rearing, because of sort of all of these things, that there's a dependency there for a woman. Now, what he's also saying at the top of the video, which I'm trying to bring this all, wrap it up for you guys on the bro and make it make sense, is that because women are dependent on a man for the cardinal needs or the evolutionary needs that they have, it then breeds negativity or a belittling because of that dependence. And here's my argument. I think for those that are not in their masculine, right? Those that are way more feminine in nature, those that then when they're making their checklist of what they see in the dude can look so honestly, not only at who they are, write down their requirements for a man, but also of the list of the things that they're writing down, they create another list of the things that they can give, and the list is just as long. Like those that think through life like that, I would say are less inclined, that those are the ones that are trying to belittle, right? Those are the ones that can see everything that's going on between the dynamics of men and women, and they say, well, it's shitty, but these are my goals, these are my morals, this is what I'm trying to adhere to while not undermining the opposite sex. And I know that we're on the internet right now and you can just as easily look at my channel and try to understand this and then go to another channel and you look down in the comment section and it's complete and utter vitriol. Anyway, listen, I'm not gonna play the entirety of this video. I'm gonna leave a link down in the description box down below to go check out his content. Feel free to go check it out. I know his Patreon is popping as well. So shout out to you, Alexander Grace. All right, questions, comments, concerns, y'all already know what to do. Hit me up, mediocre tutorials and reviews at gmail.com. I got a new Instagram as well. Look for it down in the description box down below. Did I also mention I got a Patreon too? Oh yeah, we got resources, okay? Go up there to check out what else I have to offer. Until next time, you two. Peace!